G'day YouTube. Try and ignore the rain for me because it's pelting down. There's not much I can do about it. But today, these things, little solder heat shrink tubes that claim to be waterproof. These have been showing up on my social media feed just constantly. Advertised as the U-Butte, greatest thing since sliced bread. Little connectors, you don't need a crimp, no soldering iron, you just put them on there, you put it in there, wires in, done. You've got yourself the best joint in the world. I'm extremely skeptical, especially because I know where these come from, and all the people throwing together these nice little montagey videos of like electro music going boom, boom in the background, you know, like casual, cool, I'm too cool for school, like you're in an Apple store music. A little montage of people just making projects happen with these. I think they're a cheap made gimmick. I'm going into this negative, but I'm going to give it a fair shot, fair try, and they might surprise me and find their way into a small project. So the wires I'm going to join, I'm just going to strip a couple cores. This is 40 core 2.5 cable. One question I do get a lot is how do we know what cores what, and how do we know where we put in each wire? Little trick, they're all labelled. If this will focus, they've all got the number printed on them all the way down, so you always find out which is what on each round. It's just up to you to put it in the right spot. So essentially all they claim is no real prep work needed. You just strip it. I think we'll be able to fit it in this blue. We'll try. So essentially all I want you to do is once you've stripped the two ends of your cable that you need to join, you slide one end in and the other end in until they overlap, working out perfectly with the solder. So they say you can use a heat gun for this. You don't need a gas torch. I'll try out the heat gun first, and then if not, we'll go up to something hotter. So I've got my join here. It's in there. I'll hold it straight, give it the best chance of working when I actually shrink it. Got my heat gun and device here. Crank that on. And we'll just start up in the middle and we'll wash the solder. So the solder has melted. It's quite a very low temperature melting solder. So it's all quite tacky at the moment. It's starting to take a bit of firmness to it. The shrink seems very delicate, so this isn't going to be any long-term fix anywhere that sees any movement at all, but most joins aren't. So the best joint I got was this little piece because it was easier to hold and rotate in the heat. My plan is humble bucket of water, and then we're going to increase the conductivity just a smidgen with some salt. That's a bit of washing soda. Alright, so same distance apart. Yeah, we've got about 80. So 80 ohms is not bad. Obviously they zero out to nothing. Righto, so we have our setup, and I think straight away we'll jump up to 1,000, see if it does fail. If it passes this, it's going to pass the rest. Then if it does fail, we'll scale it back and see what they're actually rated to and whatnot. So on 1,000, lock it onto continuous mode. Yep, she's working. 10 meg ohm is not bad. 20 meg ohm. I mean, this was last calibrated never, but that's a very good result. Bunch of that's actually through me. You can actually see it singeing me through the. But when it's not going through me, it's essentially perfectly insulated. So they actually passed the test. You could use them for 240. You could use them for 415. Would you? No. I mean, they've been submerged for like 2 seconds now, or whatever. Well, 2 minutes. No problems there. They're not really. The fact that they don't have a rating, I mean, you'd never use them. You'd never do it for someone paying you to do it, so you would never do it in your own house either. Surprising results. I was expecting them to fail, obviously, so they proved me wrong there. I mean, if you are playing around with something off your Raspberry Pi, you want to run a 24 volt relay, or you know, an actuator, a little limit, whatever you're doing, if it's low voltage, these are probably going to do your job. You know, they're actually going to hold up. Quick repair on something. Like, I have used industrial versions of these, but they're a lot bigger, a lot bulkier. There's a lot more resin in there for waterproofing. The solder isn't your join. You're still doing a proper join. You're not relying on that low heat solder. That's another thing. If the solder's going to melt under these quick conditions, it's going to melt when it's in service. So you're going to lose any of that join tension. You know, if it gets a bit hot in Australian heat, or underneath the bonnet of a car, you're potentially exposing it to elements and heat. It's going to go soft again. So if it can go soft for you to join it, you got to remember it's also going to go soft when you're using it. So surprisingly, they held up to their claims with the waterproofing. That actually worked extremely well. I was blown away. I was surprised it could handle the 1000 volts. And what can I say? I can't fault them on that. I wouldn't trust it overall in a long-term period, but I tested it and it worked. Is it durable? Will it last? No idea. I wouldn't trust it. I'd stick to something that comes with some sort of certification. Anyway, one of the other claims is how strong they are. So I've just pulled a few apart myself with my hands. Did not seem to be much resistance at all. In the spirit of trying to be scientific as possible as you can in your backyard, I'm going to put them up against your regular old butt connectors, your blue butt connectors that everyone's used, inline join, whatever you want to call them. So what I'll do is I'll join 2 more lengths of wire. I'll do 2 more solder joins because I've already pulled the other ones apart. Fair's fair, 1 crimp on them each. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a little bit of a jig, attach some weight to it, and see where their breaking point is. So here's my system. I have a crane hook that should theoretically tell me the weight, which I've just replaced the batteries in, and is cactus, so that will not be coming out to play. Luckily, I do have known weights that we're dealing with. I got a 5 kilo and 2.5 kilos. Theoretically, I can't see any of them getting past 10 kilos of weight. I've hooked it up to a system where I'll attach it to the bucket. I'll attach the bucket to there and slowly let the weight down as to eliminate any sharp jerking braking strain, and we'll just see what continuous load they can hold. As you can see, the solder's fully melted. It's you can sort of see how crumbly and cracky it is just the way it sets, but we'll give it a go. We'll give it its fair day in court. We'll start off with 2.5 and lower it. Theoretically it should be able to hold this because it's not really, I mean, we've all picked up something 2.5 kilos before. It's not a big task. Oh, fair's fair. We're going to give it another couple of goes because, you know, it could have been human error, could have been whatever. Join's all nice and cold. We'll start off with 2.5. See if we can hold 2.5 kilos this time. Yeah, I'll say it's strong enough for that. We'll go another 2.5. And it's holding. This is the best performance we saw out of a butt connector beaten. So the strength it's hitting will only way to go is up from here. So that's the weight off that one. Swap a 2.5 for a 5 kilo. Right, see how she goes. Easy. Well, that's the weight gone again. It's holding. We'll just give it a second. This is actually turning out stronger. Way stronger than I thought. Alright, well, I'll take the weight gone again. This is going to be a total of 10 kilos. Surely it can't hold this. That's it. That's no assistance from me at all. To go any higher, I'm gonna have to go get more weight, to be honest. I didn't see anything holding this amount of force. 15 kilos. That's holding it. Right, we're just gonna jump straight to 20 because this is getting a bit ridiculous. This will be 20 kilos and it's getting heavy. I can't see it holding now. It is too. That little weak solder joint is holding 20 kilos. This is going to be 10 more kilos for a total of 30 kilos. Let's see if this butt connector can hold it. Nah, not quite. Alright, so these butt connectors do it. These solder joints do have their limits. And the red's holding 20 kilos. This is an interesting development. Could not handle 30. For all intents and purposes, I think I'm going to call this a draw. The quality of the crimp, the quality of the set of crimpers, each crimp's going to be a slightly different quality unless you're getting them perfect each time. So you're going to see different results. But what we did see is they are all between the 20 and 30 kilo range of force, which is more than anything you ever want to join needs to have on it ever. Theoretically, any joint in the cable is going to be in a location where it gets zero stress. So the fact that these can hold up to 30 kilos, which would only be in a fault situation, some sort of accidents occurred or, you know, unplanned, unforeseen events, they're both killing it. They're both doing way more than I thought they were. So we're going to chalk that up as a draw. Between 20 and 30 kilos, both types of connector can hold. But for my final test, we're going to look at conductivity. What sort of resistance are these joints causing versus not having a joint at all versus the different types. You know, it's all well and good having a strong water sealed tight joint, but if you might as well be adding in a 100 ohm resistor into the circuit, you might want to have to think twice about what you're choosing. So I've got no idea what the results on this are going to be. I dare say it's got to be all pretty similar. The gear I'm working with This fluke's good for nothing but around the home. A lot of people say, oh, what do you mean? You can't see shit with it. This is primarily an insulation resistance tester, so bear with me if we don't see results. Okay, so I've got equal length wires. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 3 joins in each, then measure the total resistance of it all, knowing that we have the same amount of copper in both sets. And if there's micro differences, we should average out over the 4. You know, it's more consistent results. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3. Same here, 1, 2, 3. And we'll try both meters. I'm pretty confident in a fail. This meter's not going to tell us anything. So we've got, to give you 2 ohms. Oh, 1 ohm, dead short with the crimps. We'll give this another go. 2. So as far as my little T5 reckons, the crimped, these connectors are a lot better with conductivity. With a brand name like Cooltech, no one's really trusting it too much, but might get a bit better of a reading. Alright, everything's indicative. Lock it and testing. .6 ohms in the leads, so we'll go to these. We've got 0.14, 15. We'll call it 0.15, and with the red, .12, holding at 0.12. So such a negligible difference. You're never going to notice that unless you're doing the most intricate, sensitive instrument measuring. So realistically, even though the old crimps are doing better, it's much of a muchness, and they only just beat them out. It's not going to be the biggest difference, end of the world, none of that. It's, for all intents and purposes, pretty good. So at the end of the day, what do I think about these little things? Well, I'm never going to use them for anything important because as I've already said, there's no certification, they're not backed up by anything, they've got no accreditation, you know. There's no actual company, there's no face that's going to back them up. They're just sold by some Joe Blow, some Yobbo, some who knows what on eBay or Alibaba, Allied Express, whatever you're looking at. You're getting it from a no-name corporation overseas that doesn't give a shit whether it burns your house down. So you'd never catch me using it on mains power for that simple fact. I may potentially use this in certain things like say a little submersible fish pump that runs off 24 volts or 48 volts, or maybe a solar light in your garden, again running off stuff all volts. Other than that, not much. You're paying a premium over the red connectors, and if the red connectors aren't better, they're just as good. They don't go underwater. You can buy yourself some resin heat shrink to go over your red connectors that are going to do just the same. Other than that, you're paying $1 for some heat shrink with a little bit of crappy solder in it. Get yourself a soldering gun, get yourself some solder, get yourself some heat shrink. You're going to save money in the long run, and it's more versatile, more usable. One of the big selling points about these is there's no tools needed. I call bullshit on that because you need a heat gun of some sort, whether it's a little gas torch, whatever. Your lighter, you're not going to have really good results with a small open flame from a lighter. you're gonna risk more chance actually burning and ruining the casing, and you're just gonna have a terrible time. So I'm impressed with these. They do live up to their hype slightly. I mean, again, it can only live up so far. They're never gonna replace what's going on here for obvious reasons. And not much left to do. Long way in the heat shrink drawer and never think about them again.